All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to the Purpose Up podcast. Today, I am very excited to have with me Jeremy Abramson. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you so much for having me, Ben. Really excited we were able to make this happen.
Yes, sorry. I have to get off my chair here for those of you that are listening. Jeremy's going to tell us a little bit about that later on. But before we get into why I'm kneeling on the ground, tell me a little bit about who you are and what you're up to in the world today.
Yeah, it's a loaded question, but I'll give you the short abbreviated version. So my name's Jeremy Abramson. I'm 28 years old. I've been in Miami for about 4 years now. I'm originally from the Bay Area in California. After high school, I went to Israel for a year to try to get my mind right, my little child mind right, before I attended University of Oregon, where I studied business and sports marketing. And then after a couple years working in that industry, a couple events took place that forced me to make a cosmic shift. Long story short, in like a 48-hour span.
Okay.
I actually haven't started talking about this until like pretty recent. My girlfriend at the time, I found out, was cheating on me. And then I got fired from what I thought was like my dream organization, the Oakland Days. I had been going to games my whole life. And like I told everyone, like when I was in college, I was like, I'm going to get in that organization. I'm going to rise up. Eventually I'll be the GM. And I had all these big ambitions, and I was actually on a great track. And then very unfortunate incident happened that forced me to get fired. So in a 48-hour span, I was like, my whole life got flipped upside down at 24. So when I look back on it, it's such a blessing that all that happened, because, I wouldn't have moved to Miami if those events didn't go down. And then I found myself inundated in a new industry that was my true passion, which is just unleashing human potential through movement, nutrition, mindset, all these different practices. And it's been such a rewarding journey, and I'm just really excited to continue seeing where things go.
Awesome. So you challenged me beforehand to ask you the challenging questions. So I got to ask, what went down in Oakland, huh?
So, yeah, no, it's a good question. I don't know if it's my answer is going to meet your expectations, but
it's got to be juicy.
So basically, if anyone's familiar with the way the stadium's set up there, the Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, the NFL team, and the Oakland A's, the baseball team, are the only two pro teams that still share a stadium. So what happened was, it was like August. The A's were having a great season, first place, and I actually had Raider season tickets. So it was like 5 p.m. I was walking back to my car after work, and the Raiders had a preseason game that same night in Oakland at 7. So I was like, I don't want to go to the game. I'm tired. I'm going to try and get a few bucks for my preseason tickets, right? So I saw some guys in the Seahawks jerseys, and I was like, all right, like these guys, like they were playing beer pong. Like, right. Swear, they were playing beer pong. And I was like, what's up, guys? Like, you need tickets for the game? They're like, oh, yeah, for sure. They were undercover cops. And
playing beer pong, that's not fair.
Like, maybe they were like playing, like just blending in. It was just so crazy and bizarre. So just try and picture this. Like, I'm like, all right, guys. They're like, how much do you want? I'm like, $10 each is fine. I'm not really trying to make a profit. I just want a few bucks, pay for gas. And they 30 seconds later, I'm in handcuffs. They're walking me up to like their office. And as we're walking up the ramp, like my supervisors from the A's are walking down.
Awkward.
So they're literally watching this all transpire. They have no idea like why this dude has cuffs. They probably thought I was doing some real stupid shit, like drinking, being obnoxious. And I never really even got to explain my story. They were just like rampant, like, dude, you're gone. Like, drop some coarse language on me. And it was honestly such a blessing. Like, and it goes back to all about like things happening for you rather than to you.
Right.
So, these events that might seem really unfortunate at the time, if we can gain this perspective, and I look back and like my dad and I speak about it all the time, like, wow, if that would have never happened, like what would my life look like right now?
You might still be an executive with the A's.
I might be like selling tickets and like helping out with the national anthem in the 7th inning stretch. It's crazy. So I'm just so grateful for, all the good and the bad bad, in quotation, events that have happened.
Yeah, no, I love highlighting kind of that, getting away from the victim mentality. And even though when sucky things happen, there's a reason, and we can find the way that it serves us.
Exactly.
So let's dive into why we're not sitting in chairs right now. This is not something that I'm used to. I think it's something that you are, but I know it's something you're passionate about.
Yes. So stand up to sitting
Yep.
is a movement that has really picked up momentum. I'm super excited about that. And pretty much the reason, the kind of the background behind it is, listen, our bodies are designed to move. And with our current culture right now, 84% of healthcare costs are going towards chronic disease, right? 1 in 2 people have a chronic disease, 1 in 3 people are in chronic pain, and 1 in 3 people are suffering from anxiety and depression.
So 80% obesity or something like that.
So 1 in 2 have a chronic disease. That's pretty much diabetes and obesity. So, unlike other diseases, these chronic diseases are curable through our lifestyle.
Right.
And so many people, their life has become this stagnant system of literally getting up, drinking their coffee, driving, getting super stressed, cortisol levels through the roof, going to work. Then they're sitting at their desk. They right away get blown up with emails, calls, and they're already playing in this defensive game. And before you know it, it's 5 p.m. They've probably had a couple cups of coffee, cream and sugar, and they've sat on their ass for 8 hours.
Right.
And then we try to play a sport or we go to the gym after, and we're not going to perform at a high level. We're really just not going to be able to do anything in an optimal way, because as the body moves, the brain grooves, right? So what's happening when we sit, if you just kind of think about a standard person sitting, right? Our knees are fixed at that 90-degree angle.
Right.
So it's shutting off all this blood flow and really, really restricting our arteries from pumping out blood. And it's adding inflammation, and it's really damaging our spine as well, because we get in this hunchback position. And that's another huge reason, almost everyone I run into is suffering from some sort of back pain.
Right.
Right. So
I know I get the neck cricks.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really trying to encourage people with this whole stand up to sitting idea. Like, that's great going to the gym for an hour, but how can you incorporate movement throughout your day? Right. So, what we're doing right now is very basic. It's not rocket science, but it's a little outside of the box. So it's not something that's really taught or discussed in the workplace. So all these people spending 8 to 5, 9 hours at work in the car, really want to give them things that they can apply to their everyday life. And what we encourage is, every 5, 10, 15 minutes, change positions.
Right.
Maybe take some of your calls outside, get some fresh air, get your blood pumping, and really just move. Like, it doesn't need to be intense. We're just right here. We're getting a little stretch with our hip, our glute. Then we're switching sides, and it just keeps you a little more active throughout the day, right? And builds awareness and consciousness.
So I love that. So and to add on that, I think walking meetings are great. You can just walk while having meetings. It's a little bit easier down here than it is up north this time of year.
You gotta take advantage of that.
It's true. It's true. What are the other things that people can do at their offices, and how can they share this with their colleagues without seeming like a weirdo?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that last part, because I feel like one of the biggest components of resistance is that, like, fear of judgment, fear of like being different or looking weird at the office, right? So it's really, what you're doing right now, hydrating, is huge, is so big, right? Our brain is 80% water, our body's 60% water, and each night we lose a pound of fluids. And especially we get into this deficit, and we need to keep our joints and our muscles hydrated to be a functioning human. Same with our brain. So hydration's key. And then just, again, having these tools, like right now, we don't need any equipment to do what we're doing. Right. You know what I mean? There's a couple other tools, like a barefoot board. People can reach out like for other things. Like, I recommend just having a resistance band that you can pull and really like activate your shoulders, your back,
Right.
and really open up your chest to counter some of the negative flexion of sitting.
Right.
So
What about stand-up desks?
stand-up desks are great. Stand-up desks are great. You're seeing that's like been the last couple of years. There's been a big shift towards the stand-up desks. The one thing you want to be careful of with stand-up desks is, you know, if I'm stood and I'm just standing in one position, it's really not that different from sitting.
Right.
You know, yeah, you're getting a little more blood flow going, but if you're staying stagnant in one position, it's gonna really limit your potential in a lot of aspects. So, you know, even just getting one leg forward and just getting a little stretch, it's really just about exploring, right? And getting creative. Like this stuff that I preach, it's not like, yo, dude, like, oh my God, like, did you get a master's in stand up to sitting? No, I just noticed that so many of my clients and so many of my friends were like living these like lives where they're just sitting. And I read another crazy stat. And it totally makes sense, especially like from your neck of the woods in the Northeast, is humans spend 90% of their lives indoors.
Right.
So if you think about your house, your office, your car, so that's like 2.4 hours outside, which I think is more than a lot of people get, to be honest. So especially when you're in South Florida, but even anywhere, just like really encourage you to get out in nature and just like connect. And I feel like it's a huge part and component that our society has gotten away from, but it's definitely necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. What you were saying, and I've experienced this in office culture, is we get so into that stress mode where our minds are going to these like high beta waves, which is basically putting us in that like constant survival mode. And that's kind of it's great if we're running away from a bear, but it's meant to be activated short term. And like you said, that like floods us with cortisol, and that like continuous cortisol keeps like the fat on us, and it doesn't allow us to get into those more like creative states, like in the alpha state. When you meditate, you can get to those more resourceful states. So I think like also realizing that when you breathing is a huge component of that as well.
Wow, yeah.
So you can stretch and breathe, so you can kind of chill your mind out a little bit and access more of it.
Yeah, everything you're saying right now is just so on point. And a couple interesting things. Stanford just came out with a study earlier this year talking about creativity being boosted by 60% from a 10-minute walk.
Right.
And I think it's really interesting if you go to some of the most successful business people and entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, even like President Obama, they were known for like all of their meetings being walking meetings.
Right.
Because you do get that creativity and like a little tension's off. It's a little more casual. It's like so we just need to figure out, like, find little pockets throughout the day, whether it's 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, where we just show our body some love, give our mind a little break. So the Pomodoro technique basically preaches like 25 minutes focused work,
right.
Like locked in, really limit distractions. And then for 5 minutes, maybe you go outside for a walk, you go to the break room, get some water, stretch a little bit. And I feel like that is much more sustainable in terms of like longevity, like being able to be in a creative, productive mind for the course of the day rather than like 1-2 hours, you know? So.
Yeah. So, you know, I would imagine that it needs to actually happen at like a cultural level when you go into an office, because it's tough for an individual. So I imagine like getting in with HR and having them have some like incentives for encouraging this probably helps the cause a long way, right?
Wow. You are just hitting on every topic that I'm like so passionate about right now. So yeah, you know, this is something that I have a partner, Jeff, who runs a podiatry clinic, and we are really experimenting with kind of who runs what, the best approach is. And what we've noticed is you need buy-in from the leadership. Like the HR manager's great. They might be responsible for kind of like bringing you in for like an introduction talk or demo or something like that. But when it comes down to it, it really is all about, the CEO, the founder, the CFO, like these people believing in what you're doing. And in terms of like ROI, what's the return on investment? Are you going to gradually and dramatically like bring these healthcare costs down? Quite possibly, but it's not going to happen overnight. So really being transparent in expectations. Like, listen, we, one of our accounts for corporate wellness, it's a small office, like 15 people.
Right.
And we've been there 3 months. And I would say some of the most interesting things is, we've cleaned up the environment a little bit. We've added some opportunities for them to implement movement more accessibly and stuff like that. But we've kind of started to create a culture where when we go in and we do our visit, it's like they're open, they're talking. We have like a WhatsApp chat, and like people are starting to engage more, as opposed to before, no one had each other's numbers.
Right.
So it's like treating your employees like a VIP guest, because that's really how you should approach it. Because listen, like if you value your team and you want to avoid turnover and you want that consistency and that coherence, then you're gonna value this for your team. And to be honest, a lot of these employees, they're not going to want to be involved. They're not going to, they're not going to be incentivized. And it's really about finding the wellness warriors, we call them, within the office, whether it's 2 or 3 people who really believe in what you're doing. And then they're kind of like almost like an umbrella when you're not there, right? Like they're doing the things you talked about. They're practicing what we preach. And again, like
like modeling it when you're not there.
Yeah, and that's super important, because one of the things that I've realized, and Jeff kind of told me this going in, is like, dude, no one cares. Like, he's like,
just want to sit at their desk, check their email, make sure there's no fires, and then get what they need to get done.
Yeah, and especially like, being a dad and like having a wife, a kid, and everything changes when you have that, because then it's like that's right there with your priorities. So it's like work. It's like, I got to see my family. I got to eat dinner. I got to connect with them. And that's huge. So it's like, that's exactly why I'm saying, like, you don't need to go to the gym for an hour and a half. Just like, let's find things we can do throughout the day. Right. That's going to give you more energy for when you go back to your house to play with your kid, to throw your wife around or your kid around, whichever one. And
both in a good day.
Yeah, man. So to kind of summarize that, I mean, really having that buy-in and like creating that culture, and culture gets thrown around a lot, but really having that culture, like when I'm not around, it's like, I know that they know that I care about them genuinely. Like I care about their wellness. I care about their well-being and happiness. And I feel like they're starting to understand that, and it's starting to show through engagement and action and stuff like that. So hopefully that answered your question.
That's awesome. And one thought is like when you're talking to the leadership, leadership cares about being innovative, right? And if you're not willing to innovate with your own people and try new things to get new and better results, then what type of leadership are you modeling, right? So you can get them with that little innovation point, like, oh, if you're not willing to try new things and see if this can improve stuff, then maybe you're not the right fit for us.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I know it's going to get to the point, we're still kind of in those beginning stages, but I know it's going to get to the point where it's like, do we even really want to work with this company?
Right.
And I already started feeling like that, because for me, it's like, I know we're offering so much value.
No, I mean, I think it's huge. It's huge. Like people are going to love it. It's going to catch on, and those progressive companies will get on board, and those other companies that are already dying will continue to die.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is 90% of companies with 200 or more employees actually have wellness programs in place.
Right.
But there's only 15% engagement, and the 15% engaging are the people that like need it the least, the ones that are already active.
Right. They're like, oh, can I get reimbursed for going to the gym?
Yeah, exactly. And we're really trying to bring everything to them and like optimize their environment. So it's like healthy nudges, like making the right decision the only choice. like taking cream and sugar out of the break room and replacing it with healthier options, stuff like that. So I'm excited for that journey as well, because I know there's such a big opportunity to impact so many people in a powerful way.
Yep. Cool. All right. So we talked about the corporate side of things. I follow your Instagram page, and you're an avid, crazy Instagrammer. I love it. You've inspired me to do more.
Yes.
But more importantly, the variety of workouts that you do. And I invite everyone to check out Coach Jeremy 305 on Instagram to see the type of stuff that you do. I remember asking you before I'd seen your Instagram, what's mindful movement? And you're like, dude, check out my Instagram. And I get it. It's a lot easier to show people than it is to explain it. But let's kind of transition into the work that you do one-on-one with people, and how you start with a client and how you progress.
Yeah. So getting started with a client has definitely kind of evolved for me, because I really try to break down their day. Like, what does your day look like from wake up to sleep right now? Because a lot of times, most of my sessions are in the morning, and these people, they work, they have high stress jobs, they have families and whatnot. And it's like, okay, like, let's address your sleep. What are you eating? Like, these type of things are so important, like just your overall lifestyle. And then in terms of movement, I really try to have the mentality and mindset to empower clients and just people I work with in general to get creative and like get out of some of the structure that so many people are accustomed to. In like the fitness industry, it's like 3 sets of 10 reps. And it's like, life doesn't work like that. Life doesn't happen.
It's chest day, bro.
Yeah, right? Like, so I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, chest day, because a lot of people prioritize muscles. Like, today is back and bicep day. Today is chest day. Today is leg day. For me, it's all about prioritizing joints. So, the hips, the spine are really where we need to put a lot of our focus, because so much of our imbalances and asymmetries stem from dysfunction in the hips and spine, right. Again, which goes back to a lot of our lifestyle, sitting, and our sedentary life. So really focusing on the hips and spine, mobilizing the joints. And then I always try and empower people, like, you can do so much cool shit with just your body weight. And a lot of people, like type A people, the ego, it's like, oh, I want to lift heavy, I want to max out. And it's funny to see like the transition with some of my clients, because now it's like they're asking, like, yo, like, everything we're doing feels so good, I want to do more of it. Right. Because we're not only increasing their range of motion, their movement potential, but we're also getting rid of inflammation and pain at the same time. Once we can do that on a consistent basis, then not only is there, like fitness and stamina going to be better, but all aspects of life are going to improve, because you're going to be able to do the shit you enjoy without fearing getting hurt. Right.
So it's like improving our mobility. And I know, like, seeing on your Instagram site, it almost seems like these kind of capoeira style flows, like mixed in with some other stuff.
Yeah.
Where does that come from, and how do you kind of coach people on that?
Yeah. So there's a couple different systems. Like, I'm certified in something called Animal Flow. Okay. Which, like you said, is actually built on the foundations. It's kind of like if you think of yoga meets capoeira meets jujitsu, right? And a lot of it's ground-based movement. So a lot of hips, a lot of spine, but also a lot of nervous system stuff, because like a lot of this stuff requires you to think. And I like that too, because so much of our day now is automated. So like, it's great to require people, like, okay, I need to lift up my right hand, kick through with my left leg, and then return back and make sure they touch at the same time. And so I really like kind of seeing how many parts of the body we can engage at once, like, and challenge them, because I want to be efficient. Right. My company, E3, energy, effort, efficiency. People don't have 3 hours to put in work. I want them to be able to feel like they put in some serious work, improved a lot, and like enhance their day and their life in the hour we spend together, So I understand, like, that hour is like really valuable. These are people that, are high level people, and like they're trusting me with an hour and paying me well for an hour of my time and their time. So I want to make sure I give them the most value possible.
Awesome.
So yeah, yoga, capoeira, animal flow, and then just kind of like messing with shit. I really just like exploring and seeing like some cool transitions you can do from one position to the next, you know? So trying getting out of like these structured formats.
Cool. What can people who don't have you as a personal trainer do to get skilled up with this type of stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, for sure, following me is a good start. not to sound too salesy, but no, I mean, listen, I think people oftentimes want like instant gratification and like instant results. They want to be able to, you know, like lose 20 pounds in a month and get a six pack in 6 minutes. You know, like all. I
want to get a six pack and still be able to drink beer.
Exactly. You're gonna get a different type of six pack. So I try to really be realistic with kind of the process and the journey, because, you know, I didn't get to where I am in a month, a year, you know, like I've been consistent for 10 years. So I really encourage people to like be patient and like just enjoy it and keep exploring your body. But for sure, you know, I'm just launching this really cool program that I put so much time and dedication and effort into. It's called Climb. So I'm launching that January 1st. It's actually live right now for anyone who wants to sign up. And the link is in the bio of my Instagram. So you pretty much have to go to my Instagram regardless. But pretty much what the program is going to consist of is it's going to be, first of all, Climb stands for cold exposure, lubricate your organs, intention, move your body, and breathe. So the first month is going to focus on those 5 things and implementing them into your first 30 minutes of your day.
Okay.
Because I'm a huge believer, if you can win the morning and master your morning, you're going to build momentum for the rest of the day.
Definitely.
And put yourself in a great position just to have a lot of energy at whatever it is you're doing. And that's, you know, all of us who are really trying to like, you know, we may already have, I think you and I, we know our purpose, and it's like, okay, how can we share this? And how can you need energy. It takes a lot of energy, you know, and there's no better way to have energy the rest of the day than fucking locking in for 30 minutes and going through these 5 practices. So without diving too deep into it, the program's really going to consist of, you know, each month is going to have a different focus, whether it's body weight movement, kettlebells. There's going to be a no alcohol month, different challenges, and it's $29 a month. So it's like less than $1 a day, and you're going to have access to me, our exclusive Facebook group, and there's going to be a ton of amazing content, and the community we're going to have is going to be really special too. So I'm excited for that. That's honestly, I mean, there's other, Animal Flow is a great system, so people can kind of follow that and maybe like attend a certification. But definitely reach out to me. Honestly, I'm happy to help anyone. Like it really depends what direction. Like if they just want to become a better mover, then I definitely suggest that they reach out and we can have some conversations, and really see it all. It's all about awareness. I think so much of life is just building awareness, your strengths, weaknesses, and balances.
I totally agree. So two points I want to hit on. The first is, I know for me, it's like I want to burn that extra fat, right? And I've got my diet. It's getting pretty dialed in. What would you recommend to people who are trying to like lose that kind of like last bit of fat?
Yeah. What does your diet consist of now, if you don't mind me asking?
So right now it looks like intermittent fasting, where I've got an 8-hour eating window. If it's on most days, I'll do like a salad, a pretty hefty salad for lunch, and then dinner is normally like, you know, like a stir fry or a Mexican thing with vegetables. I eat plant-based. I mean, I think what gets me is the occasional alcohol and cheat days. Yeah. If I'm thinking about
that's
what's
right, you're
in there.
vegan. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, it's gonna be 5 years, January 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man. Yeah. And again, like that just shows it's like consistency.
Yeah.
Because
Well, that's also the power of challenges. You were mentioning challenges. That started as a 30-day challenge.
yeah.
And then I was like, let me see how long I can go. And I can go 5 years apparently.
Yeah, man. And it's really, and that's the type of commitment and consistency it takes to really like be great over a long period of time. So the thing you mentioned about intermittent fasting, there's just so much science backing the positive effects of that. So I can honestly say that I can almost universally recommend that to people. So basically the concept behind intermittent fasting is, you know, you mentioned like your 16-hour window where you're not eating or ingesting food, right? So if you think about it, just to put it in lamest terms, try not to eat within 3 hours of going to bed, and try not to eat in your first 3 hours of waking up. If you're sleeping at least 6 hours, that's 12 hours right there where you're not putting anything in your body. Black coffee is fine, and obviously water's fine. So those are a couple important keys on that. So I recommend everyone at least try intermittent fasting, because
What about a little bit of almond milk with no sugar in it?
Technically it has calories.
Okay.
That's really what it's about. So like you could put like I put lion's mane, the mushroom, that doesn't have any calories. So but anything that's gonna like facilitate, right?
So am I sabotaging it with my little bit of almond milk?
A little bit.
Damn.
To be honest, I mean technically
Cool.
yes,
No,
but
this was
technically yes, but like listen, it's you're still getting a lot of effects. A couple other things when it comes to food, you know, I don't try and push like one methodology, right? Like paleo, keto, vegan. I think when it comes down to it, they all have most things in common, which is like stay away from the shitty foods, the fake foods, the processed stuff, the sugar. Sugar is the biggest killer. And I made a post last week that it was so funny because, you know, there's studies that are showing sugar is 8 times as addictive as cocaine.
right.
So I made a post about this, and then I had a bunch of people hitting me up like, you're advocating the use of cocaine. Like what are you doing? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you really just took this out of
Missed the point, man.
Yeah. So sugar is like sneakily put into everything almost. So really being careful about that. And when you eat out at restaurants, just be conscious and aware, like ask the people like, hey, what oil do you use when you cook? Stuff like that. And then just, eat real food. Like if you're eating meats, if you're eating eggs, try and eat the high quality stuff, because it really, really is important. So much of the soil and the way we produce food in this country is bad. It's destructive. So it's really important, like local farms and really kind of dig deep and research like places you can trust.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I wanted to mention, you talked about cold exposure earlier. I saw that you'd been to like a Wim Hof thing, and I've been to a Wim Hof thing. And for those of you guys that don't know Wim Hof, he's the Iceman. He's got a documentary out there. He's totally
documentaries.
He's totally awesome, and he's got some great breathing techniques as well. But let's talk about cold exposure. I know coming down here, finding an ice bath or doing an ice bath regularly is hard. The water isn't very cold down here for a cold shower. How do you do it?
Yeah, that's so true. The cold showers here, just like there's something missing.
It's like womp womp.
But actually, so in New York as well, there in Miami Beach, I'm actually hitting it up right after, is a Russian Turkish bathhouse.
Right.
So they have like really two great cold plunges and a bunch of like saunas and steam rooms and stuff like that. But the idea behind the cold is a few things. It's great for your mitochondria. Your mitochondria are basically like the energy base of your cells. So
The powerhouses.
yeah, so having healthy mitochondria is obviously very important. So the cold is great for that. It also does something. It activates your brown adipose tissue called BAT, brown adipose tissue. It's a very small percentage of our fat. It's right in between like our shoulder blades, and what we can do with that is like that catabolizes our white fat. Okay. So getting in the cold activates our brown fat, and that activated brown fat catabolizes our white fat. So it's great for like fat loss. You were saying like shed a couple extra pounds, speed up metabolism. And then I think honestly, most importantly for most people, it's the mental aspect. It's like, it's going to be uncomfortable. Turning that shower knob all the way to the right is going to suck. Jumping in that cold water is going to suck. But once you understand and you get in there and you survive,
right?
It's like, oh shit, like I'm strong, I'm resilient, I can do this.
Yeah, that's it reminds me of a quote I was just sharing with my audience the other day from David Goggins. It's like, embrace the suck.
Oh, and David Goggins that guy's a crazy, he's an animal.
He's an absolute animal. But yeah, he talks about embracing the sucks.
Yeah, so the cold is great. And I think, part of my climb for the first month is I'm just encouraging people to take their normal shower and then the last 15 seconds, turn it all the way to cold. And then week 2, 30 seconds. Week 3, 45. Baby steps. One last thing, actually, to refer back, you were saying, you were trying to optimize your diet and your life to like lose a couple of pounds. The one thing I want to mention too, which goes great with intermittent fasting, is fasted cardio.
Okay.
So if you can just like first thing in the morning, just like stretch or go for a 10-minute walk, something very low intensity, but just to get your blood flowing. So you're burning straight fat rather than glucose.
But don't you still have like glucose stores at that? Because I mean, I'll go for like a 4-mile run in the morning.
That's great with nothing in your stomach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, you're gonna have like glucose stores, but
then it'll switch over.
Yeah, but you're burning a lot. Like it's just more efficient. You're gonna be like a fat burner, and so that's just something I came to my mind.
Cool. So you challenged me to come up with some questions for you that weren't regular podcast questions. What keeps you up at night?
Oh man, that's a great question. This is so what keeps me up at night? For it's really been about like lately, the biggest thing has been like I'm doing so like the projects I'm working on, I'm so passionate about. It's almost hard for me to stop working and thinking about them as I go to sleep. And like, as you know, my days are long. I wake up 5 a.m. I'm training people. I'm training myself. I'm working. I'm grinding. And like the last couple of nights, man, it's like I've had a notepad by my bed, and like 2-3 times through the course of the night, I'm like writing stuff down. So I guess that's a good thing, right? It's like keeping me up. And then I would also just say like sometimes that fear comes in where I'm like, fuck, man, like I know I'm capable of such great things. Like, what if I'm not able to fully unleash my potential, my purpose, and share it with the masses? So these are things that like, they drive me, they motivate me, but sometimes like the negative comes in and I'm like, fuck, like, am I doing enough? Like, I know I could be doing more. I could be impacting more people. So I guess that would be the best answer to that question.
All right. And then alternatively, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
What gets me out of bed in the morning? Just knowing, I posted something this morning, like a quote, like I woke up with the 2 greatest gifts, my eyes, right? So really just understanding, appreciating how lucky we are to wake up each morning. 150,000 people die every day. And I'm just like, I know, like, I've had friends pass away. I've had, all my grandparents are gone. So I know like life is such a fragile thing and we oftentimes take it for granted. So just waking up, understanding that I'm here for a reason and that I have, this great gift that I want to share. It's bigger than me. It's really about cultivating community and sharing my energy, my passion, my knowledge with the people around me. So that's ultimately what gets me up. Sometimes like this morning I was like, damn, I want to keep sleeping, but had to get up. Sometimes clients are the reason I have to get up, when they start at 6 a.m. But in general, man, it's just having that grateful mindset and just understanding like, yo, this is 86,400 seconds of my life that I don't want to waste and that I want to make the most of.
Amen. Amen. And when you think about, you've alluded to it, but when you think about your kind of like grander purpose or grander mission, how do you kind of verbalize that succinctly?
In terms of myself or in general?
In terms of like, if, my purpose is to...
Got it. Yeah. So I'm always kind of tinkering with this, by the way. I'm always tinkering it with it. But right now, I would say my purpose is to help others unleash their full potential through building movement, mindset, confidence. It's so much more than just fitness to me.
Right.
And that's why I don't really like being called a trainer. I'm trying to get that word like out of people's vocabulary when it refers to describing me. Because life, it's such a complex beast, and it's such a beautiful journey, but it can also be so painful at times. So I just want to help, bring light. And I know this is going beyond my purpose, but, just bring light even in times of darkness. Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
What about you? What's yours?
I mean, my purpose right now is similar without the kind of stressing the movement part, but it's to help people unlock their potential so they can shine brighter in the world, and we can kind of make this world a better place where people are fully activated instead of sleepwalking.
Yeah, and we talk about it like the automated, right? Like so many people, like everything's automated.
And fear is a huge one for me, because I have held myself back for a number of years because of fear of, these constructs of society, whether it be parental expectations or cultural expectations. But, the greatest things that we can do is become our most authentic selves and express our creativity. And really, purpose is an ever-evolving thing. And if we can actually get real with that, it's a beautiful thing. So leads me into another question. What advice do you have for people who are kind of like struggling with that purpose question? It can be a big one, but you were probably there at some point and then you got activated. Do you have any input there?
Yeah, I would say everybody has something that brings them joy. Like everybody, I'm such a firm believer that everybody has a unique gift. Whether it's art, whether it's singing, whether it's blowing up balloons, whether it's dance, everyone has these unique gifts that need to be shared with the world. And oftentimes, like you said, I think, we're constructed at a young age and there's so much self-doubt. Like, oh, I can't do that, or I can never become this.
I call that those ego voices that just try and keep you safe in where you are. Because if you're where you are, then your mind's okay with it, but that's just a small part of your mind.
Yeah, and just to just to go off that tangent, like yesterday or 2 days ago, I was outside like at the park by my house doing like some pull-ups, and this girl, she's like, "Oh my God, like I want to do that." I was like, let's go, like let's do it. And she's like, no, I can't do that. She was like 4 or 5, 6 years old. I was going to help her through. And I was like, people from such a young age, like they have these negative feelings of themselves and this self-doubt. And I would just really advise people to like spend more time in their own thoughts. Our thoughts can be like devils, but really if we like write stuff down and reflect and like even every day, every morning, every night, and understand really like what value you can bring to people, and just like look to serve others. Like I think one of the best things that I've seen a lot of people benefit from unexpectedly is just like community service.
Right.
Whether it's going to a food bank, whether it's working at a homeless shelter, like taking the focus off yourself and bringing joy to other people. And then a lot of times that'll unlock stuff like, oh my God, like I do have value. I am worthy of helping people and making an impact. And I think that can kind of set off some light bulbs. So get out there, write stuff down, reflect, go out and help someone, make someone smile. And I promise that'll make you feel better and get you going in the right direction.
Yeah. And just to echo that, you're not going to find your purpose under a rock. It's not something that you lost. It's something that you need to cultivate. So it's cultivated through action, and then seeing kind of where that energy leaves you and if it resonates with you or if it doesn't. And then you just follow the breadcrumbs, and then you just kind of explore, and it amplifies over time. So, that's kind of
I love that, man. That's so true.
That's kind of my take on it. Anything else that we haven't covered that you think's important for these guys to know about the work you do and your mission?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, to piggyback off what you just said, about like taking action, and it requires discomfort. It's like such a big thing. Like, it's been a huge theme for me, like the last year and a half, is like embracing discomfort, and the cold shower is a great way to do that. But maybe it's like an uncomfortable conversation, or like you had to do, like on a more extreme, like leaving your job and becoming like really pursuing your passion and your purpose, like all in, like when you have a wife and a kid to support, like that's a huge risk. And, I know it's going to pay off for you, but like taking those leaps of faith and not always playing it safe is huge. So I would encourage people, like, do something tomorrow that scares the shit out of you. Maybe it's even something simple. Take a different route to work, try a new food, call a friend from high school or college that you haven't spoken to in a while. Like, do something that isn't routine in your typical day. In terms of, personal stuff, I just would love to have conversations with people talking about what obstacles they're trying to overcome, any adversities that they might need a little guidance overcoming. Hopefully I can share more of my experiences, and maybe people can learn from that. Experience is a great teacher. So just reach out to me. Instagram is probably the best way to do that right now, Coach Jeremy 305. And yeah, man, I'm so excited to have you in Miami, and be able to connect, and just really two minds can be more powerful than one, and I know that's going to be the case with us. So I'm excited for just the year ahead, man, to finish 2018 strong and to build momentum into the new year.
Definitely. And one last thing on fear. I often talk to my clients about, like, let's reduce the space between fear and action, reduce the time, because the better that you get at that, the more effective you're going to be in this world. And with the work that you do coaching, and with the work I do coaching, that can also really help you accelerate and improve that gap quickly. So if you are struggling, getting help is not a sign of weakness, it's a strength. And it can really help you, and it's helped me tremendously, the amount I've invested in where I've gone in terms of personal development, having somebody hold me accountable and hold my feet to the fire, where otherwise I would have just kind of kept coasting in a state of discontent. So,
wow, that's powerful too. Yeah, we could keep going.
Yeah, we could keep going, like,
because I see that as such a huge cripple for a lot of people is their circle, like their inner circle, and they're not getting the tough love, the support, the accountability that they need. And, a lot of times if you're trying to make these changes in your life, your parents, your friends, they might not support you. And like, that can be discouraging. So surrounding yourself with positivity and people that understand what you're going through, that are empathetic, but at the same time, like, are going to challenge you, I think is so important. So really search for people to surround yourself with that are going to make you better. Never be the smartest person in the room. Like, it's good to feel stupid sometimes.
All right. I think that's a good place to land the plane. So I'll have all your links and information with the show notes here.
Beautiful.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us live. Thank you for keeping me off a chair for most of this, and appreciate your time.
Peace.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Purpose Up with me, Ben Stein. Please subscribe here on YouTube so you can be updated on when the latest episodes come out, as well on Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you consume podcasts. And since you're still sticking around, I've got a special free gift for you. Just go to purposeup.com/free gift, or click this link here to get book recommendations from me, a guided meditation, as well as a book I wrote on how to live your life more purposefully. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate it and you.